When an asset is everywhere, its perceived value drops to zero. Human psychology is hardwired to ignore what is constant and obsess over what is scarce. If you are always accessible, always reactive, and always available, you are not demonstrating devotion. You are surrendering your authority. High-status scarcity is the strategic discipline of calculated distance. In this masterclass, learn how elite manipulators leverage controlled access, tactical withdrawal, and walkaway power to make their presence an irreplaceable commodity. The fundamental law of economics dictates that surplus drives down value, while scarcity inflates demand. The human mind applies this exact rule to social dynamics. When you are perpetually accessible, answering calls instantly, agreeing to every request, and always occupying the room, your presence loses its impact. Familiarity breeds indifference. The availability paradox reveals that authority is not maintained through relentless visibility, but through strategic absence. When you deliberately pull back your availability, you interrupt the recipient's expectation of easy access. This sudden vacuum forces their mind to re-evaluate your importance. They begin to notice the void created by your absence, converting casual taking for granted into active appreciation. By mastering the rhythm between intense engagement and calculated distance, you ensure that every moment you choose to give carries maximum psychological weight. Low-status individuals operate with open-door policies, granting unconditional access to their time, focus, and energy. High-status strategists build a deliberate architecture around their accessibility. Controlled access architecture requires creating psychological friction before anyone can earn your undivided attention. You do not respond to non-urgent demands immediately, you do not leave your schedule wide open for convenience, and you do not overshare your inner thoughts. This controlled scarcity signals to others that your time is deeply valuable and heavily guarded. When individuals must cross structural or psychological hurdles to engage with you, their subconscious assigns a higher value to the interaction. They treat your insights, guidance, and approval with far greater respect because they recognize that access to your mental real estate is a privileged, highly calibrated outcome. In any negotiation or social dynamic, the person who is most attached to the outcome holds the weakest hand. Strategic detachment is the ultimate form of leverage. It is the visible, unshakable willingness to fold your cards and walk away from any deal, relationship, or conversation that disrespects your boundaries. When an opponent senses that you cannot be bribed by approval or threatened by loss, their usual pressure tactics crumble. Walkaway power is not an emotional bluff, it is an authentic internal posture of self-sufficiency. The moment you demonstrate that you are fully prepared to step away without regret, the balance of power flips instantaneously. The other party is forced to make concessions, pursue your agreement, and reorganize their terms simply to keep you engaged at the table. The human mind craves resolution and despises incomplete information. When a story or personality is fully explained, the brain checks it off and moves on. The mystery loop exploits this cognitive tendency by withholding non-essential details about your plans, schedule, and internal thoughts. Instead of explaining every move you make, you offer minimal, highly precise statements, leaving the remaining subtext open to interpretation. This deliberate ambiguity forces the opponent's subconscious to fill in the gaps, obsessing over your motives and trying to decipher your next move. While they waste cognitive energy analyzing your silence, you gain a massive psychological advantage. By remaining partially shrouded in mystery, you maintain an aura of depth and unpredictable potential, ensuring that you occupy permanent real estate inside their mind. People rarely appreciate a stabilizing force. While it is operating smoothly in the background, they only recognize its true value when it disappears and chaos ensues. Value anchoring via absence is the disciplined execution of withdrawing your strategic guidance, technical execution, or emotional support at key moments. Instead of stepping in to fix every problem proactively, you deliberately step back and allow the environment or team to experience the friction that arises without your presence. When your stabilizing hand is temporarily removed, operational missteps occur, decision-making stalls, and the contrast between your presence and your absence becomes starkly clear. This contrast anchors your absolute worth in their minds far more effectively than any verbal speech or self-promotion ever could. Upon your strategic return, your input is welcomed not as a routine contribution, but as a crucial rescue. By letting the vacuum teach the lesson, you transform your involvement from an expected duty into an indispensable leadership asset. The ultimate expression of high-status scarcity is the sovereign distance, a state of complete psychological self-sovereignty where your core identity remains distinct, untouched, and unassailable regardless of how closely you interact with others. A sovereign strategist never merges completely into a group, organization, or partnership to the point of losing their individual distinction. You maintain an invisible parameter, a boundary of private ambition, unspoken thoughts, and independent capability that signals to the world that you belong first and foremost to yourself. This boundary creates an aura of quiet authority. Because you do not rely on external groups for validation or identity, you cannot be easily compromised, replaced, or absorbed. Others instinctively feel that while they may work alongside you, they can never fully own or manipulate you. This realization produces profound respect and a subtle underlying fear of losing your alliance. By maintaining your sovereign distance, you become an irreplaceable figure in any setting. Someone whose presence elevates the entire room, whose absence leaves an undeniable void, and whose allegiance remains a prize that must be continuously earned. You remain an anchor in chaotic seas, directing power dynamics effortlessly from a position of absolute internal autonomy.